Friends, you're in for a special day today. My first guest is Paul Turner, and he is a dedicated language and literature teacher at Upper Canada College with 28 years of experience, specializing in foundational skills for year 8 and 9 students. Passionate about travel and experiential learning, he has led student trips worldwide, including cultural and community services experiences in Mexico and Costa Rica. Committed to whole school engagement, extracurriculars, and personal growth, Paul has no plans to retire, and there's still so much to accomplish with his students. Welcome, Paul Turner.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and I truly mean that. So tell me, Paul, how did you get on this journey of being a teacher?
Well, so I actually had no intention of being a teacher. I had actually started down a path of law enforcement. My family had many inroads to law enforcement, and I began the process to become a police officer. Most of my friends all went to university, so I would spend weekends going up to universities, and I was very engaged and enthralled with the university culture, and started recognizing that if I was going to be successful at being a police officer, then I would need a proper education. And so I started the pursuit of part-time courses while working on a police force, and quickly determined that I needed to go full-time, at which point I went full-time and started engaging in student life, and I absolutely loved it. I took 2 degrees. I finished 2 degrees, Bachelor of Honors Sociology and a Bachelor of Honors English. And I started in university, started recognizing that I really enjoyed public speaking and getting engaged with the student body, and doing some leadership roles at university. And that experience really pushed me down the road towards teaching rather than going into policing. And so I went and did my teachers college in Scotland, and never looked back. When I returned, I was immediately employed, and never looked back. No real disruptions to my employment. And so 28 years, most of which were in the public school system, and about 3 years ago, I switched to an independent school in Toronto that's been around for almost 200 years. So it's been quite a change, but it's been an amazing ride for sure.
Oh, that sounds like quite a journey. You know, when I was a student back in junior high, I had an amazing social studies teacher by the name of Mr. Karras, who I still love to this day and age. And because of him, I wanted to become a social studies teacher. Well, I became a doctor instead. Just like you were going to become a policeman. But you know, you decided that there was a better path for you.
Absolutely.
You know, it's funny how our paths lead these ways, and how, you know, you always find what's for you, or what's for you finds you rather than the other way around.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that. I mean, I did come to a point in my career where I was a little bit dissatisfied with the direction that it was going. And as a consequence, I was very fortunate to find myself in a position where I left the public education system to the independent school. And that has had a significant level of rejuvenation in making me absolutely love what I do again. And I think that that's the most important part, not only for the educator, but the students that they educate, is that the kids can smell out whether or not a teacher enjoys what they do. And so when we bring that passion, the kids are more passionate, much like your social studies teacher probably was a passionate individual, and that sparked in you the kind of the desire to be better, and maybe even to follow in that person's footsteps. And so it's been a real joy to have a second kick at the can in terms of an occupation, to really be excited about the things that I do.
Oh, exactly. Well, let's focus first on your international trips, focusing on culture and community service. Tell me a little bit about that and how that has helped you and helped your students.
Sure. So it actually starts before any engagement really with students. About 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago, my wife, well, even 16 years ago, I suppose, my wife came to me and said, we have an opportunity. My wife is also an educator. Jennifer is an amazing teacher. And so we have an opportunity with our school board to do what's called a teacher-funded leave. Essentially, you pay into an account, and after a period of time, they allow you to take a year off, and you pay yourself over that time. But when you return, your classroom is as it was. And so the idea was that when our children, Jack and Elizabeth, were 8 and 10, we were granted the right to leave the school for a year. And we took a 320-day trip around the world with our children, which was the most amazing experience, all generated by the long-term vision of my wife. And so it wasn't something that ever really occurred to me. And I think that really sparked within me the desire to travel lots of other places. And so with my new position at the school, I have had an opportunity to last year, Mexico City and Oaxaca with 14 boys, and it was an amazing experience. In 5 days from now, I will be going on a trip to Costa Rica for 10 days, which is a service trip, which is very, very important in the International Baccalaureate and also to my school. And so we have 14 young fellows who have signed up for a trip to Costa Rica, where they will be assisting in planting some crops. We will do some sightseeing, but they'll be living in a camp, and mainly will be helping the local community. And they will, in exchange for that,
Yeah, one of my daughters, my third daughter, went to Oaxaca, and I'm going to tell you a funny story because this was after school. She went and spent a month there with some organization, and she stayed with the family. And of course, the food in Oaxaca is very spicy, and she was starting to get stomach problems and couldn't eat anything. So the dear lady that she was staying with tried to cut the spice, but it still wasn't working so we told her, well, my wife and I are doctors, we said, go to the store, buy this medication, it'll settle things down. And sure enough, it did. But certainly, different cultures have different blends, and you have to appreciate the food. And my daughter loves Mexican food and still loves it to this day, but she's learned it's got to be milder than the traditional Mexican food.
Absolutely. And I mean, the reality is that in my estimation, the estimation of my wife is that travel opens your worldview. I think that as we move into different cultures and different foods, different experiences, different religions even, that it simply just widens our perspectives, our understanding of humanity, of people. And so as a consequence, I think that the aspect of travel changes people. It makes them grow. It was often funny when we were, both, as I said, both my wife are educators, but we would encounter people who would say, well, you're going to take your kids out of school for a year. How are they going to survive with that? And the explanation that we gave initially, and it was confirmed, was that the road taught them more than any book or school or one teacher could ever teach them. They grew leaps and bounds because of the experiences and the things that they saw on their journeys. And travel becomes the travel and experience in travel becomes the best educator there is. We can learn about things in a book, but until we actually see them and experience them and are immersed in them, it's difficult to move beyond the theoretical.
Yeah, and with that, Paul, we're going to pause for a commercial message. But friends, come right back, because Paul Turner, a dedicated language and literature teacher in Upper Canada College with 28 years of experience, is going to come back and teach you more. Friends, I have an amazing individual today, Paul Turner, a dedicated language and literature teacher at Upper Canada College with 28 years of experience. Now, I can't tell you enough about how travel has changed my life and helped me. I just got back from Costa Rica as well. I spoke at the University of Peace. I was asked to be a keynote speaker on unshakable happiness, which is one of the topics I speak on. And boy, it was so well received. I got another standing ovation. I tend to get standing ovations wherever I go now. So I'm so pleased, because these were some 180 of the most amazing people on the planet. So when you get a standing ovation from those people, you say, oh my God, I must have done something right again. Paul, it's such a glorious life. And I'm going to ask you a strange question. What is the most unexpected lesson you've learned while leading international student trips?
I guess the thing that became most clear to me is that with young people, we often underestimate their ability to be resilient, to be able to accept challenges, and to succeed and even master some things. And I saw it with my own children, and I have seen it with other students as well. I remember when we were when my wife and I were traveling with our kids. My wife and I would go through these periods where we would miss home, we would miss our food, our friends, our family, what have you. And I remember one particular day where I wasn't having a particularly good day, and my daughter said, she's 10 years old. She said, what's wrong with you? You're on a trip around the world. Suck it up. Like, you got time in the rest of your life to see everything. You're on a trip around the world. So just enjoy the ride for what it is. And it was amazing to me and to my wife to be able to hear that from a 10-year-old, and to understand that, wow, what an amazing experience. And her resilience and my son's resilience were enviable. And so I see this time and time again when I travel with young people, or when I take them camping out in Ontario's north, is that they might not have the necessary skill to be able to deal with a particular situation, but given a situation that presents a challenge, they always seem to rise to the challenge. And I think that resilience in young people is enviable, and something that we can all learn from as maybe adults sometimes, is that what we perceive as being particularly problematic or challenging, and maybe even overwhelming, is often not seen in those manners for young people who are willing to accept where they are and are excited about where they are, and don't necessarily flounder when they're those challenges.
Oh, yeah. 1 year I decided to take everybody to Europe. I was speaking at a conference in Paris. So we went on our European vacation, and we went from London to Paris, and then to Italy. We went to Milan. And the train got into Milan, and the train leaving from Milan to the Cinque Terre was very late. And there were people standing around, and all of a sudden, over the PA system in Italian, they obviously said, the next train is leaving and we figured it was ours. But my wife started crying because she knew we didn't know where we were going or anything else. And so a little old Italian man came up and said, "Are you Canadian?" We said, "Yes." He said, "I love Canadians. You saved us during the Second World War. And yes, the train is late, but it will leave on time. So you better run." So we ran the length of 3 football fields, and we threw the children on and our bags just as the train was leaving. And we did have a private car, but there was no way we were getting to our private car because everyone was plugging the aisles. And it was, you were tired, you were miserable. And we stood in the aisle, sitting on our suitcase, and my daughter met a bunch of young models that were going to the Italian Riviera to get a photo shoot. And she chatted with them because all my kids speak fluent French, and she still to this day says this was the best trip of her life. So there's the resilience for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, if you could design your dream experiential learning program, what would it look like?
Wow. Okay. Well, certainly it's going to cost some money, but I think that experiential learning is best suited, and in my estimation, where we live in Canada, we live not far from the border in Toronto. A lot of kids, it's become my understanding through my experience that a lot of kids have really no understanding of Canada's north. And so I would love to build some experiential learning for as many kids as possible to see what is 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours north of where they live, because it's become my understanding that most kids don't know that this kind of environment even exists right above them. And so, I'm a big proponent of kids getting out into the north and learning how to learning the different ecosystems, the animals, the things. Right now, where I live, just outside of Toronto, there's no snow on the ground here, and it's only 2.5 hours north. There are 4 feet of snow. We have an ice skating rink. We participate in a whole bunch of different activities yesterday. My wife and son had a lovely fire out in the backyard, and sat and enjoyed the sunshine and beauty of the nature here. And I think it's really amazing. I will be going on a trip to Algonquin Park, which is a massive provincial park where there are no motorboats, there are no cottages allowed, no motorized vehicles whatsoever, where you can canoe for literally hundreds of kilometers, sometimes without seeing anybody, with the exception of the odd moose or bear. So it's I think that experiential learning in the environment outside of an urban environment is probably the best for young people. It's something that I would love to be engaged in. We're very fortunate at my school. We have an outdoor education facility where we just had 85 year 8 students who are learning how to make maple syrup out in the woods. The tapping of the trees, the boiling of the sap, the outcome of the maple syrup. Sounds very Canadiana-ish, but it's a very beneficial and terrific environment and an opportunity to learn.
Funny that you say that, Paul, because this weekend we are having our tir à la neige party in our house. My wife's French Canadian, and so the whole family will be over with our tir boiling on the stove to the perfect temperature.
Yes, sir, that's me.
And then dumping it on the snow.
I just turned it off.
So that we will have that perfect party.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these are very Canadian, but they're very cultural and very beautiful, and everybody has to experience them. Okay, let me go on to one more question. Let's maybe check the time frame. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we're having some communication issues.
Okay, are we better
Are you
now?
hearing me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I believe. Yes, I can. So the last piece was you broke up after I had finished talking about the maple syrup.
Okay, and I was talking about maple syrup here. This weekend, we're having maple syrup on the snow party, and we're having all of our extended family together. My wife's French Canadian, and she loves having these parties. So one of our nieces is bringing over an accordion, and we'll play French Canadian songs, and it's going to be another special day.
Absolutely. And those are really terrific days. When we have had many skating parties and parties out on the ice, especially socially distant during the pandemic. It was nice to see our neighbors at a distance at a skating party for my son's birthday, and to be able to get out into nature is just phenomenal.
Okay, Paul, how have you learned to have a fantastic life with your students, with your engagement, with your extracurricular activities, with your going on world trips, etc.?
Well, I think how to have an amazing life is, I am very, very fortunate. I sometimes don't always recognize that. I'm often reminded about how good we really do have it. And I think that there's that the most important part in all of it is to take a step back every once in a while. My family is much better at reminding me to do such a thing, is to take a step back and really appreciate the things that we have, the experiences that we get to enjoy, the country we live in, the familial relationships we have, our health. All of these things combine to make an amazing life. And I try to turn that around to the students that I teach and bring. I try to bring every day to school now a perspective that says we should be thankful for the things that we have, and we should work towards always bettering the lives of other people around us, in the hope that, and I think, I think that as we transmit that joy that we find in our own life, it becomes infectious, and especially in the education field, when you do so, the kids pick up on that, and they start to see, and they recognize the good in their world as well. So I think that it's a reciprocal relationship. The kids keep me young and positive, and I try to turn that around, saying, as an adult, we can really understand how to live a life that is enjoyable, that is thoughtful, that is well educated, and that is that's happy. And that's at the end of the day, that's the most important part, right? We can chase money, we can chase success, we can chase all kinds of various things, but the reality is that none of those things will make us happy. I think that our happiness is what drives those things, and so that's why, as you indicated at the beginning, I'm able to retire quite literally in 20 days, I think, and I will not do so. I've committed to doing at least another 2 years of schooling kids, because I enjoy it. And
well, my definition of retirement is totally different of real retirement. I'm not going to sit in a hammock lying all day or watching TV or reading the newspaper all day. To me, retirement, doing what you want to do rather than what you have to do. And I think everybody should think of that as a retirement, because truly that's how you make a difference.
Absolutely. And I have found in later life, in the last couple of years, I find that I look at various jobs that are out in the community or in my world, and I think, that'd be really neat to be able to drive a train or to operate a digger. And so I just look at all of the various things that are out there that people do for a living, and I look at them differently now, because I think, I wonder if I would like that. And sometimes I find that maybe it would be fun to drive a train. I don't know.
That's why places like Las Vegas exist. It used to be the gambling and sin capital of the world, but now they've gone totally different. You can drive a dinger, one of those thing, and lift up soil. You can drive a race car. You can do a lot of things. You can fly a plane. You can do all these things because people want other things. You can, I don't know if you can do parachuting, but you can do simulated parachuting where you get in these baggy clothes and over this big fan and you literally fly.
I have actually done that.
So that's what people want to do. They want to experience life in the fullest.
Yeah, and I think that for myself, I will wait a couple of years until my wife retires. But we definitely have on our schedule and on our radar much more travel. The world, when you start actually traveling the world, you recognize just how large it is and how small we are in relation to that. And even though we traveled for 320 days straight, we didn't scratch the surface as to the amount of things to see in this planet.
Exactly. Well, sir, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming and joining me on this show. It really makes a great difference for me, and it's been truly a great experience for me. Thank you again.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure, and I'm very happy that you're engaging in this podcast. I think that there are some really spectacular educators out there, and I think that it's great when someone like yourself can shine a light on those individuals. They give a lot, and they're in charge of educating future generations. So I think that it's great that you're highlighting the things that people are doing right.
Well, and if you could maybe make an introduction for me to some people in your herd, even to your wife, to see if they would like to come on my humble show. I would love to shine a light on those amazing individuals.
Well, I would tell you initially that my wife is probably the most spectacular educator I've ever met, and there isn't a day that goes by where she comes home and she's legitimately touched by the fact that a student has commented that she's changed their life, or that this is their favorite class, or that that they contact her for years and years and years beyond their graduation, because she is one of those impactful teachers that we seem to encounter, and I meet lots and lots of people who are like that.
Okay, so I will say goodbye to everybody right now. Come back for our next episode of The Elite Educator, where you're going to learn skills and values and everything else that you can take home as a teacher. And if you're a student, you'll learn things as well. Bye for now and have a fantastic day.